Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys swinging by the channel to spend a little time with me on the video today. I think you guys are going to like it by the time we get done here. We are going to be talking about fishing with the Megabass Magdraft in the fall time of the year, guys. It's right around the corner. In my opinion, there's two different time of years I really like to fish a Magdraft. One is in the pre-spawn and the other time is in October and November. So I want to give you guys sort of a master's class and everything you need to know about Magdraft fishing, the three different sizes that they have, a little bit about, where you want to fish them, how you want to fish them, because if you guys have never caught a fish on a Magdraft, it's one of the most exciting ways to get bit that you'll ever have. So we're going to go over to that in today's video. Also, guys, just like to invite everybody out there, if you haven't had a chance to please consider subscribing here to Intuitive Angling. It's free and easy. All you got to do is hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button so you don't miss any videos there. And it's a good way to support the channel if you don't want to use like the links I put in the description or anything. So much appreciated with that. Okay, guys, this is arguably the most famous swim bait in the world right now, the Megabass Magdraft. It's been that way for probably going on 7 or 8 years now. It's just been a staple for not only tournament fishermen, but recreational fishermen both. And a little bit about the bait before we get into it here. There's three different sizes here. This is the most popular, which is the 6-inch model. And then you've got the 8-inch model. And then you got the big Mongo 10-inch model here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each one of those. But one of the things a lot of people say, why is the Magdraft so unique? It's a couple different things. First of all, profile, style of the bait, and the fact that when you reel this thing through the water, the head will wobble like that, as well as this big wagging tail. And it's just very appealing to the fish from a visual standpoint. This is a visual bait, and all those elements that go together on top of having a bunch of different colors make it really good. And also, guys, I'll include my Tackle Warehouse link in the description for the Megabass Magdraft. If you guys want to use that link to pick up a few, it's a good way to support the channel here. And they got a bunch of different colors, all three sizes. Okay, I sort of want to go through each one of these the sizes here, first of all, to talk a little bit about, where you want to fish them, because that's the main thing. The actual technique of fishing it, guys, is pretty simple. Most of the time for all my Magdraft fishing, I'm using some type of a 7-foot, 2-inch rods, around a 7-foot rod. The one I prefer is that Megabass Perfect Pitch, the Levante Perfect Pitch. It's a sort of a medium heavy 7'2". But you want a rod that's anywhere between that 7 to 7'2" range, and you want something that's got a medium heavy action to it. Because for the 6-inch, now for the bigger ones, I'll talk about a different rod, but for the 6-inch, that's the best setup for it. Most of the time, I fish it on 15 to 17 pound test Seaguar and Vizex line. If I'm casting it around shallow targets or something like that, I'll use the 17, especially if I don't want to get it down very deep. But if I'm casting it like off deeper points or banks where I want to actually get the bait down in the water column, I'll usually put it on 15 pound test Seaguar and Vizex, sometimes 12 if I'm dropping it way down. But the main thing, guys, you're just casting it out there, and just a slow retrieve like that. You want to reel it just fast enough to get the tail wobbling on it, just to get it moving like that. And the thing about the speed of retrieve on this Magdraft is you can't reel it too fast, because if you reel it too fast, it'll go over on its side. So notice that if you're reeling it out there and you start seeing the thing to go off to one side, you need to slow the bait down. Just try to keep it fast enough where that tail is just wobbling through the water a little bit, and they like it on a slow retrieve. And also occasionally when I throw it out there, so I'm reeling it in there like that, occasionally I'll do like a half turn, just a faster half turn. And that faster half turn, this bait will be going, right along the water slow, then it speeds up just a little bit. Sometimes they can target trigger the strike on that. But so the bait is easy to fish. So that's not what I want to spend a lot of time on here. And also, guys, another thing here about the hook before we get into that, the hook that they have on it, this is one of the few lures that I use, the stock hook. The hook that comes on the Megabass Magdraft is perfect for it. This is a magnet here that keeps it in place, and there's a little groove for the one slot of the treble to go up in there to make it nice and weedless, and makes that hook sort of invisible. So from that standpoint, you don't really have to do much to it. You can just take it out of the package and use it. Colors, real briefly on colors, I usually let the water clarity and the light condition dictate the color choices. If it's brighter or sunny, if the water's real clear, I like more of a shad translucent type color. But if it gets a little bit darker, say the cloudy or windy or the water visibility is not super clear, I'll go to a little bit more brighter or solid color on there, but you just sort of have to mix and match with that. Okay, I want to talk briefly about the 3 different sizes and talk about where you want to fish them. Now, first of all, let's talk about the 2 big ones, the 8 inch and the 10-inch one. These are the ones I use the fewest. Out of probably all year long, 75% of the time that I'm using a Magdraft, I'm using the 6-inch model, but 25% of the time I'm using the big 8-inch and the 10-inch model. Now the 8-inch model, to me, it's a really good bait in the pre-spawn. I haven't done that good in the pre-spawn on the 10-inch, but I have caught them on the 10-inch in the fall time of the year. There's 2 different things that you need to remember when you're using the big ones over the little ones. In order to catch fish on these big, larger Megabass Magdrafts, you got to have the bait close to deep water. In other words, the bait needs to be traveling over a little bit deeper water where these fish come up on the bait. You don't ever want to throw one of these big ones here in shallower water where the fish have to come horizontal on it, because they will not do it, simply because look how big this sucker is, guys. If a fish gets close to that, they're going to know it's not real. So you have to keep it over the deeper water where they have to come up a long way to it because they can't see it very good. That's been the biggest thing that I need to remember, or that's worked for me as far as on the big ones. So therefore, when I'm fishing the big ones, I like to fish them on steeper riprap banks, bluff banks, out over deeper points, any place where I'm throwing that bait to shallower water and it's coming over sort of that 10 to 20 foot zone. Because when I get bit on these big ones, most of the time the bait is actually over about 10 to 20 foot of water. Especially since I do like to fish it in cleaner water. I don't fish a Magdraft much unless the water visibility is at least 3 feet. I like a minimum of 3 feet visibility. Ideal situation for me is that 3 to 5 foot zone is perfect. Not to say you can't catch them in a little bit more off-colored water, but I've just had that best success in 3 to 5 feet. So if I'm in a situation like that where I'm fishing over deeper water, I'm using the big ones. Also, the big one is real good if you reel it past like a boat dock, a deeper dock. In order to catch them on these big ones though, guys, the conditions have to be just perfect. You have got to have low light conditions, which usually are best during a cloudy, rainy type day, and you got to have some wind. You need to have at least a 10-mile-an-hour wind. I prefer like a 20-mile-an-hour wind. So when I'm talking about the big honking mothers, I'm talking about cloudy days that are windy, like in October, early November, over deep water. That's the time to fish those. But the main meat of the video here, guys, is I want to talk about the 6-inch one, because the 6-inch one, it's a lot more versatile. You can fish a 6-inch Megabass Magdraft in the fall around any type of structure or shallow targets you do with any other lure. If you're going down a bank and it's got docks or shallow grass or stumps or lay down trees or whatever it is, you can throw a Magdraft right past that target. One of my favorite ways to catch them on a Magdraft in the fall time of the year is fishing around any isolated wood targets. I'll throw it down the side of the log, throw it next to a stump, throw it down the side of the boat dock, throw it the next down parallel to a grass edge. Any type of visual target in shallow water, keeping it in sight, reeling it, maybe 6 inches, a foot underneath the surface, is going to be really good for that. Now the other pattern, which is probably the most consistent for me, is to get out there there's 2 different things there, early in the morning or on a windy day. Usually when the water temperatures are in the 60s, which is normally October, early November. Try to get out there on those banks that are getting hit by the wind. So ideally I like to have some type of a rocky bank. It can be a steep bank, it can be a flat bank, it can be a point, whatever, but I like to have some type of a rocky bank that's got some pretty good wind coming in on it. And I'm throwing the Magdraft right to the bank and I'm just slow reeling it. And by the time it gets back to the boat, it may be 3 or 4 feet underneath the water. And if that water visibility is 3 to 5 foot, you're apt to get a bite right on the bank, or you're apt to get a bite right at the boat. They can hit it anywhere along the cast if you have the right water visibility. So main thing with these guys, I'm gonna clue you in on as far as the better bite on it. It has to do with cleaner water, it has to do with wind, and it has to do with lower light level conditions. And like I said, those lower light level conditions can come with either early in the morning, it can come on a shady bank if there's some shade and wind coming off of it, or on a cloudy, rainy day. You gave me a perfect condition for the Megabass Magdraft in the fall time of the year. I would say get me out there like in mid-October. That water temperature's in the 60s. The wind's blowing 15 miles an hour out of the south, and we got a cloudy day, maybe even a little bit of misty rain. Perfect. That's a perfect scenario to catch them on a Magdraft. But this is one of the funnest strikes you'll get, guys, because what's happened is you'll throw that thing out there and you're reeling it through the water like that, and it doesn't have much resistance. So there's no throb on the rod tip, or there's no resistance. It just feels like you're reeling a stick through the water, and all of a sudden you'll just be reeling it like that, and boom, your line will it's like somebody took a hold of your line and just went like that to it. That's how they hit it. Super, super fun strike. But anyway, guys, if you haven't tried it, I'd suggest starting out. I wouldn't suggest starting out with the big mamas. I'd start out with just a 6-inch Megabass Magdraft. Link in my tackle warehouse description, in the description of this video here. And I think it's going to be one of your favorite fall baits. So hope it helps out. We'll talk later.